Hello and welcome to the 66th episode of the Rockies Now podcast. We are a Colorado Rockies podcast. If you're a Rockies fan or just a baseball person, you can follow us at Rockies Now on all of your social media platforms. Thank you for joining with us today. I'm your host, Steven, along with co-host Tom for the ride. Tom, how are you doing? And hope you had a good Thanksgiving, man.
I had a really good Thanksgiving. It was a fun time. The weather was fairly cooperative, and it's gotten much colder since then. But all in all, it was good. Had some good food, spent time with family, and unfortunately enjoyed a Bears. I shouldn't say enjoyed. I was the recipient of watching an unfortunate, poorly managed Bears loss. But Eberflus is gone, so that's a
Yeah.
whole separate podcast. We can talk about that. But anyways, all good. How was yours?
It was good. I watched that football game. Gosh, yeah, it
Oh,
was it was
dear
so bad.
Lord.
I mean, I tweeted it. Go check me out on Twitter if you haven't already. It's right under my name here in the video. So if you're watching here on YouTube or Twitter, make sure you go follow us on X. But yeah, I watched that football game. It was. I mean, I thought the Bears had a chance to win, man. It was it was a good game. It was a really good game up until that last minute. You had 29 seconds left and you had one timeout left. All you had to do was get maybe 10 yards in your field goal range. That's it. And they take their sweet time, still no timeout. You still have one timeout left. And I was literally doing this call timeout, timeout, timeout. Down to 6 seconds, they snap the ball, and it's just like, are you serious? And so I was rooting for the Bears, even though my family was rooting for the Lions. I was
Mhm.
secretly rooting for the Bears because I feel bad for the Bears. I like Caleb Williams, but it's just like this makes you go crazy when you're like, this is horrible. This is a bad organization, bad
Mhm.
head coach, and at least they fired Eberflus. But like Tom
Mhm.
said, this is not a football podcast. That's a podcast for another time on a different podcast. So you're gonna
Uh,
have to check us that out
well,
on the Broncos Source podcast.
Well, the further way, check out the Broncos because hey, we're having quite a good, surprising good year. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate that we're in the same division as Kansas City, but
yeah.
Broncos are doing well, so we got to be proud of that. So, but anyway, like Steven said, tune into Broncos Source.
Yeah, make sure you go follow us at Broncos Source for our Broncos content. But yeah, my Thanksgiving was good. And of course, I want to thank all of our listeners for asking us questions during that time. How have you been doing? Our Thanksgiving was great. We thank you for asking. And we hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Let us know how your Thanksgiving went. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food? My favorite Thanksgiving food is mashed potatoes, man. They're the best. I mean, turkey is good, but there's nothing like mashed potatoes. And then after that, maybe dessert like chocolate pie. That's a tradition in our household. We also do pumpkin pie, but my favorite is the chocolate pie. It is so darn good. So hope you guys had good dessert. So Tom, I'm going to ask you a question. What is your favorite Thanksgiving food? And then what do you do for dessert?
Favorite Thanksgiving food? You know what? I would say I do love mashed potatoes. Potatoes is a
Mhm.
very
Oh,
good food,
yeah.
especially when you make if you cook it just right and salt it, and it's good. However,
Mhm.
I have had some ones that mashed potatoes are a little too, how do I say this, watery. Someone watered it
Soupy?
down a
Yeah,
little.
soupy. Yeah.
So it's soupy. That's the right way to say it. Yeah, but I will. I'm not a. People always ask me, would you like light or dark meat turkey? I'm not a fan. I would say, gosh, I'm trying to think. Well, I'm trying to think.
There's a lot of
There's so many options.
options.
I'm just gonna stick, of course, to mashed potatoes. Oh, this may sound really odd, but my mother does make some good mixture of green beans, so that's always a good one to add to.
Yeah.
So green beans is always something we have at our Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, but with dessert, I this year the apple pie that one of my sisters bought from a downtown bakery in Chicago was actually just chef's kiss to die for. So it was
That sounds really good right now.
it was
Yeah.
also it was actually when the crust was actually not too crispy. It was actually just kind of, how when you when you toast bread and it's
Hmm.
nice and crispy, the crust
Yeah.
was just the perfect bread of crisp.
Hmm. That sounds really good right now. I
Mhm.
also forgot to mention green bean casserole, and you mentioned green beans. Green bean casserole is a banger because I remember when
Uh,
I was in high school, after one of my soccer games, I remember I came home and I hadn't eaten supper yet. I literally ate 4 to 5 helpings of green bean casserole because it was so good, and it was right around, the holiday season. But yeah, it's so good. It's a wonderful time of year because it gets you in the Christmas spirit and also in the baseball spirit of the winter meetings and just
uh,
that time of year. And
mm.
it's an awesome time of year. And again, we hope that everyone had a awesome awesome Thanksgiving.
Real,
And
qu- real,
yeah.
real quick, you just reminded me of what it was. I was trying to remember what it was. It was my sister made a corn casserole that was really good. So
Ooh, yeah, corn casserole.
it was a mixture of a nice solid. So actually, that was what I was trying to remember what it was. Because again,
Mm,
my memory was I couldn't figure what it was. But yeah, good corn. You said green bean casserole. So, oh, that's right. The corn casserole was my favorite.
mm,
So that's something that my
yeah,
sister made. It was really
yeah.
good.
Did you do any Black Friday shopping?
Not in store because I used to work retail, so I try to give
Yeah,
all the people who work the miserable Black Friday in retail a break. I did
yeah,
do some shop. I did do a little bit of Christmas shopping, and we did buy something for our house too. With the so I took a little bit of advantage of the Black Friday deals.
yeah. I, I of course, as I don't know if people can notice this because I haven't worn this yet on the podcast, but I did do a little bit of Black Friday shopping slash Cyber Monday shopping. Went to the Rockies dugout store, got this nice little pullover sweater, so I'm wearing it tonight. And plus, I think a lot of Rockies fans really like this. This is when the Rockies used to wear this on their spring training hats in 2019. So I picked that up, and then I got like a Rockies hoodie. So that was awesome. So I did a little bit of both. But it's been a good few days just resting up and getting ready for the Christmas season. And again, it's that time of year, man. I mean, the winter meetings are happening in just a few days, starting next Monday. Then we have the draft lottery on Tuesday. That's going to be a big day. So make sure you stay tuned right here on Rockies Now on the Instagram page and for X and Twitter and all that good stuff because the Rockies, Tom, they have a chance to get the number one pick, and of course we'll talk about that a little bit later in the segment of the show. But to start off the show, I want to talk about something that I don't think we might have, but just to double check, when we had Chris on our last podcast, the Rockies they made a couple moves, and again, we probably might have already talked about this, but no big surprise that the Rockies non-tendered Brendan Rodgers and Cal Quantrill. Um, and this is something that we both have talked about the entire offseason so far, that we have been somewhat expecting this to happen, and it happened. And of course, a lot of negative Nancy's out there were saying that this is the worst thing ever. This is horrible, that sort of thing. But at the same time, though, it's just we've been preaching about it the entire offseason. We knew that this was coming, and it's important move for the Rockies as they go further into this rebuild. And Quantrill makes sense why they didn't trade him. Well, first off, they couldn't trade him at the deadline because nobody wanted him because of the money and the value was not high. Same thing with Rodgers. And according to reports by Patrick Saunders at the Denver Post, the Rockies did make Brendan Rodgers available, earlier this offseason for trade. And the Rockies tried to trade Rodgers per reports, but nobody really wanted him, according to other reports. So, not sure if that's valid, but really, again, like I was talking to my brother the other day, Rodgers and Quantrill, they've been on the market for several days now, or several weeks now, and they're still available. It's not like, oh, the Rockies are getting rid of a generational type of talent and he's going to go to this team. Listen, they're still on the free agent market. A team could have picked him up immediately, and so we're still waiting to find out where they're going to go. And of course, Tom's going to talk about that tonight. But it's not too surprising, Tom, that Rodgers and Quantrill were non-tendered. So I'll hand it off to you here.
No, it was. I mean, I think I did comment that it wouldn't surprise me if on one of our previous episodes that Rogers is going to get non-tendered given what he was projected to make in arbitration. Um, Quantrill was the one that I guess you could say shocked me, but at the same time, if they're trying to shed a little bit of payroll, given also what he would have made in arbitration, it kind of makes sense given this is his last year of until he's officially an official unrestricted free agent. So yeah, but I do, like I said, no one's kicking down people. It is kind of funny. People thought that, like as you pointed out, it's not like we're getting rid of a generational talent where people are kicking down doors to sign this guy. But the dominoes for them will start to fall once Otani and everything and all the other big elite guys get signed in. Teams are going to fill out their rosters. But I do, of course, have three. I went with three good homes for all of them. So where would you like? Which one would you like me to start with? You pick.
Let's do Quantrill. Let's do that as the first one.
Okay, I'll start 3-1. Here's the interesting thing. They're all in a kind of similar. If you break it up into northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, they're all in the same part of the country, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my number 3. I actually have him going to my third pick is going to the Boston Red Sox. Given the fact that I do believe I hear a lot of rumblings that John Henry and Tom Warner are putting a little bit more pressure on Craig Breslow. Not pressure, but more incentive for Craig Breslow to say, all right, let's go. Let's take this next step here. Let's get a little more serious. Let's
Mhm.
try to not necessarily, because you think back to the early 2000s when the Yankees, Red Sox are competing for the same players. Are like, not that they should start off bidding war and a spending frenzy, because look, good
Mhm.
luck competing with Steve Cohen on that and the Dodgers on that one.
Hmm.
So I think that Quantrill would be a good idea to bolster that rotation. Again, he's not like we know he's not a big strikeout guy. I think he'll benefit from having the monster and the deep alleys in right and left center field. So I think that's a good option for Quantrill to go to. He could definitely help bolster their somewhat young rotation and provide a veteran presence. Number two, this one may shock you and a lot of our listeners and viewers and our followers. I'm going Detroit Tigers. Um, I keep it's crazy. Obviously they have the rating side now, newly awarded Cy Young winner Tariq Skubal. It is crazy. They made the playoffs after trading away Jack Flaherty. They were sellers at the deadline. I think if AJ Hinch gets more veteran pitchers in that rotation, he could really give him options and provide, and again, bolster the rotation, because they could definitely add some extra pitchers. And I think Quantrill will benefit from, again, Detroit has one of the most spacious outfields in Major League Baseball. That will
Hmm.
benefit, I think, will really benefit him. So I get number two, the Tigers. I really think they could definitely use Cal Quantrill. Plus, also, it's not
Hmm.
that far from Canada. It's right. It's actually, sorry, Detroit is right there near the border.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and then number one, speaking of Canada, I have him going back home. I have him as the number one choice. I think he could go to the Blue Jays, go back home to Canada. Who knows what, if or where they're going to trade Bo Bichette and or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You need to help add a little more, like a fourth. He could be a fourth or fifth, maybe third starter, depending who they add to complement Jose Barrios and Kevin Gossman. So, yeah, I think it's to be a good opportunity for him if they're interested. Go back home to Canada.
Hmm. Yeah. I like that. I like Toronto, Boston, and then Detroit. I like that. Like American, it's going to be American League. I think he's more of an Eastern type of guy, East Coast guy, and of course this was not really going to be in the show, but we'll just
Mhm.
go out and throw out this out because today there was the Rockies fan that emailed Dick Monfort about Juan Soto. And Dick Monfort replied, and it wasn't like a mean response. It was just a simple response. He's like, hey, Juan Soto is the East Coast guy. And so for all those Rockies fans out there, I hate to break it to you, but Juan Soto is not coming to the Rockies. What? So
No, it's like Kevin McAllister.
so yeah. So yeah. Sorry, Rockies fans, sorry to break it to you, but he's not coming
Steven,
to
you just
Colorado.
ruined our holidays. Come on.
Yeah. People tap out. Like people just
That's
start
okay.
subscribing to our Rockies channel. But
Oh
no,
boy.
so yeah, there's a lot of preferences for a lot of players. They just like the East Coast. I mean, Blake Snell's a West Coast guy, and he's staying in California. No big surprise. They love it out there. Um,
It would have
so
been
yeah,
crazy.
that's a good one.
No, he is from Seattle, but it would have been crazy. He's not going to Seattle. They have a good enough
Yeah,
rotation already.
yeah. And then let's jump over to Brendan Rodgers. So who do you have for Brendan Rodgers?
Okay, this again, one of these probably, actually two of these teams probably could shock you. Number three, we talked about this in the pre-show meeting. I've got the New York Yankees again. Gleyber Torres is gone. They could use a second baseman, and they're not going to chase a big bop, like a big bat to play that position. So, and again, Rogers does have a gold glove. He's a solid defender. And Rogers in that lineup batting in the bottom third, he could benefit greatly from the fact that he's got Judge, even without Soto, Judge, Stanton,
Mm,
etc. So I think definitely it could really help him kind of give it just again, he won't be the guy or one of the guys. He can just sit back, relax, and try to be himself and regain his confidence and swing. Again, New York is not exactly an easy place to play, but why not give it a shot when the fact is the guys who are going to be with all the pressure on them are Judge, Stanton, etc. And who knows if Soto's coming back. But again, as you pointed out in the pre-show meeting, he has to get rid of that beard.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that would, give it a shot. Again, Rogers is a Florida guy, so
Mm,
who knows? Maybe he want to play New York either way. And so number two, this is probably going to shock a lot of people, but somebody on Twitter X who I follow pointed this out as a great idea. I saw it and I go, that's actually a pretty good idea. I like that. Number two is the Chicago White Sox. You know, They're right now not going to be diving in the deep end of the pool on a lot of free agents. I think but the guy, I will tell you this, the guy they hired as their new director of hitting, they have a director of pitching, which is Brian Bannister. He did a good job in his first year. I've listened to interviews with Ryan Fuller. He is very methodical, practical, and just a very intelligent guy when it comes to hitting. Just how he talks about hitting, different approaches for different styles of hitting. I think Rogers. I have it written down in my notes here. He could benefit. Rogers could be a result of the Ryan Fuller effect.
Yeah.
So I think that again, people talk about.
Yeah.
And people talk about again coming off the worst season in baseball history, but I think Rogers could go there, and if he reestablishes value, the White Sox can send him to a contender. So I think that'd be a good option for him to go
Mhm.
and try. Plus, also they got a new manager. I like Will Venable. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if they cross paths, but either way, White Sox good option for Rogers. So either way, and then this is the last one. Going back to his home state, I'm going with Tampa Bay Rays as number one spot. Be and people look at me thinking, well, you've got guys like he's not going to steal bats from Yonder Diaz, who's at first base. You got Brendan Lowe, that guy Camillario, and also there was Taylor Wells playing shortstop. But to be honest, I think the Rays are going to trade away some of their infielders. Oh, they also have Christopher Morel. I think Rogers goes again to his hometown state. And again, we talk about it's the Tampa Bay Rays effect. They figure out how to take cast offs from other teams who are formerly top highly rated prospects and just turn them not into superstars, but
Mhm.
just get the best value out of those players for the betterment of them winning and the better of those guys' careers. So honestly, I think that'd be a good idea for Rogers. And
Mhm.
like I said, I think that'd be a good fit. He goes home to his home state, and yeah, the Rays can maybe again turn him around a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think I mentioned to Tom like I feel like the Mariners could be a sleeper pick too, but I like Tom's picks as well. Like those,
Sure.
it makes sense. But Seattle, they could use a second baseman. I mean, they did get rid of Jorge Polanco, as Tom pointed out before the
Mhm.
show. But I do want to mention this comment here. It kind of made me laugh inside a
Sure.
little bit. Uh, Lois Griffin is in the comments, everybody. She says, "Get Charlie back on and make him pull a Tom Brady." Oh man,
Anything is
anything is
possible.
possible in Rockies Nation. Anything is possible, Lois, in Rockies Nation. Love it, love it.
That's good, Lois. That's good, Lois
Yeah.
Griffin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Lux in the comments said Dick Monfort said, yeah, we already talked about Lux. We mentioned that just a little bit earlier. But yeah, I like those three teams for both Quantrill and Brendan Rodgers. Again, they're going to have some teams available, but again, their market is not huge, not a huge surprise. They're not a lot of value, and I feel like, and I'm going to mention this, and this is not going to be a knock on Rockies fans because I don't want this to be a knock on Rockies fans, but I feel like a lot of people tend to, and this could be teams as well. Teams can do this, overvalue players. And I'm not saying that the Rockies or anybody necessarily overvalued Rodgers. It's just that it was a very tough situation because the Rockies, they have prospects that are ready at second base. And I know people are going to say, well, they went out and got Kyle Farmer, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. And they got
Mhm.
Owen Miller. Well, what do you mean prospects? Well, those are, I feel like, very much signs of depth bench type of moves. Now, Kyle Farmer, as of right now, could very well be the starting second baseman on opening day, but he, of course, it's not the future, right? I mean, we already got Amador, but this is just for a spot holder for Amador because in my mind, Amador is not ready yet, quite yet. Again, he finished the season in AA, played very well in the playoffs for the Hartford Yard Goats. Very well, if you look at the playoffs when they were playing against Somerset Patriots in the AA playoffs. But Amador, he's still making his way. Shunk, I think, is going to be a bench second baseman. I think he is going to make that roster. However, he'll be a bench second base. But I think we're going to see Aaron Shunk also get some playing time. And I'm excited for Aaron Shunk too because
Mhm.
he deserves it. He's going to be right behind there. He's going to be kind of the utility guy. And I think Aaron Shunk, that's his ceiling. I don't think he's a starting second baseman by any means of the imagination. But I just feel like Owen Miller definitely screams bench spot. Um, Farmer, sort of the same thing. I mean, it harkens back to Bradley Zimmer. You remember last year we signed him to it was a minor league deal. It wasn't a 1 year deal, but he wasn't even here before the end of spring training. The Rockies cut him, and so I'm not saying that the same thing's going to happen to Farmer or Miller, but if I had to pick which one is going to be staying, more likely to stay, and that's going to be probably Farmer because he does have a team option for next year for 2026. So if there's going to be one that's going to be heading out the door, it's probably going to be Owen Miller because he doesn't. I mean, he was traded over here. It wasn't like a signee. It was more of a trade, and plus he was traded for cash. So he's really not being paid much at all to play on the Rockies. So. And that's a nice thing too. The Rockies are not paying really for Owen Miller, maybe very little, very small contract. So we'll see. And since this comment came up, because I want to answer this right here, Josh says, would the Rockies make a push for Christian Walker or Pete Alonso? And as you can see, Tom and I, we're shaking our heads no. The Rockies have their first baseman, Josh, and that is Michael Toglia. After what he did this past year, at one point, I was thinking that Toglia was going to hit, 40 home runs, 30, 40 home runs. That's how hot he was. And I think we got our guy at first base, man. And I think Toglia deserves that first base spot. He deserves every day playing time. And when the Rockies gave him that, what did he do, Tom? He performed what we wanted to see. Yeah, I mean, Toglia did still struggle a little bit with strikeouts. But you look at the power. He's got the power. He's got that first base glove that could win a gold glove, multiple gold gloves. So I think the Rockies have their first base, and plus Christian Walker and both Pete Alonso, they're great ball players, but they're aging. The Rockies should not get older. They ought to go younger, and I think they ought to let Michael Toglia play at first base.
Unfortunately, most of a large portion of our payroll is tied up in Chris Bryant right now. If the Rockies were contenders and we had an opening, I'm sure we would definitely kind of talk to them and incentivize what the going rate is, given the fact that Pete Alonso is a Scott Boras client. That's going to be a little difficult. I can't remember if Walker's represented by him too, but either way, I would love to have Pete Alonso. I think he's a great great things about him as a person, as a teammate. He's got the raw power, but I think he's staying in New York. It would, again, Josh, that would be awesome to have. And especially, I wouldn't mind having Walker, considering I don't think he's going back to Arizona. I think he's going to go to a different contender this year. It would be nice to have, but again, Toglia, as you and I talked about in the pre-show meeting, now that he got everyday playing time at the same position, he was able to get his timing down, not fall out of rhythm, and he has the power. And he provides a bat from the left side that we do from both sides that we could benefit from. And the last thing I'll say about his defense, your comment about Gold Glove, the fact that he's so gosh darn tall. I mean, my God, he saved quite a bit of errors up above his head, way above his head, and also to his left and his right, particularly to his right. So, but yeah, I'm excited to see how Toglia is. And please, Bud Black, bat him in. I think he's going to bat either fourth or fifth. That's where I put him.
Don't put him like seventh or eighth, please.
No,
and
please
don't play like again. I love Bryant, but don't put Bryant number 3 or 4 again, please. Like Bryant should be 7 and below as of right now.
6 below.
6 below. Hey, just reminds me of the store 5 below. Just hey Bryant, 5 and below. But hey, so I want to talk about this too because since we're talking about free agents and all that, let's talk about some free agent targets the Rockies may have, Tom. So why don't you get into that next subject, man?
Unfortunately, I picked 5. As I talked about in our pre-show meeting, I picked 5, and unfortunately, I'm sorry to disappoint anybody who's hoping me to say Juan Soto or maybe surprise some people with saying, let's go get the Cubs. I'm trying to think of another guy. Not going to be Blake Snell. Who is it? Corbin Burns. We're not getting Corbin Burns. Sorry, everybody. We're not going to give Corbin Burns a bigger contract than the Hampton contract. That's not going to happen. So, which he will sign for a bigger contract than Hampton did. That's not happening. Mike Hampton, sorry, I couldn't remember his first name. Excuse me. I don't know why I was drawing a blank. But the thing is, I know that the Rockies, when we look at I thought about going their everyday line. I'll start with the position players. Given that the Rockies, most of our everyday lineup is set, unless, of course, God forbid we trade somebody because all the Ryan McMahon rumors are out there. Who knows if he's going to get moved, what's going to happen. Here's a couple of interesting picks I hear. Number 3, I'm going to start with in terms of position players. Kevin Pillar. He has his current Spotrac market value is only $1 million. I know he's 36 years old. He'll be 37 sometime during the season. I can't remember when his birthday is. But I'll tell you, he is a fantastic leader. He did play for us briefly back in 2020. He is a fantastic veteran leader. He does offer depth and that leadership that you want to kind of mold this young team. So I'd say, hey, if he's interested, take a flyer on him. Be a great veteran depth piece. Why not? Even though Sam Hilliard is going to be the fourth outfielder, why not have Pilar as the fifth outfielder, or maybe as the 4A outfielder going back and forth. So that's one option. Here's something interesting. Another probably a former NL West foe, Adam Frazier. Lefty bat, can play a couple different positions. He's mostly second baseman. Also plays second most played position is left field.
Mhm.
Um, Former All-Star with the Pittsburgh Pirates. His projected market value, according to Spotrac, is $4.5 million. Again, could be like I said, veteran leader, plays multiple positions. He's a lefty bat. I think that even though he's 32, 33, I think he's going to be 34 this season. I think, again, good depth piece. I'm not sure. He's not an everyday player, but again, it's a good guy to have off the bench or as a depth piece on the 40-man roster. So
Mhm.
that's another. And last one, this may shock a lot of people. I'm familiar with this guy considering he's only played for the two Chicago teams. That's Nick Madrigal, former number four. He was the fourth overall pick by the White Sox in 2019. He has excellent contact bat to ball skills. He doesn't walk a ton, but he does have, like I said, he is great when it comes to contact, putting the ball in play and getting solid hits. Not a lot of power. He's a he's an okay defender at best. He does have his little mental lapses in the field, but at the fact that he's only valued at about $1.8 million, and when he was traded to the Cubs, he did struggle with injuries, never got his footing. So I think he's a good guy to take a bet on, give a flyer on, and see what you can get. Again, 40-man roster guy, a 4A guy. Who knows? Maybe he could end up. I think he's only 26 years old, I believe. So
Mhm.
still got some years left in him. So that's another option. And then over to the pitchers. Here's one that, again, that might surprise everybody. Mike Soroka. He had a tough year last couple years with injuries, but he is a good revitalization
Mhm.
project for the Rockies to try.
Mhm.
And as Chris did point out in our last episode and previous episodes, the best breaking ball pitch for Coors Field that's impacted less by the Coors Field effect is the slider. His
Mhm.
best pitch is his slider, so there's an option. He's only expected to be a market value of only $3 million, so he could be the fourth, fifth starter, maybe sixth depth piece starter in the rotation.
Mhm.
Again, pending what changes Bill Schmidt makes. And last but not least, here's an interesting lefty.
Mhm.
Former Oriole John Means.
Ooh, I like that.
I bring him up because he does have a pretty good. Again, he has had Tommy John surgery,
Mhm.
so I think it was 3 years ago, I believe, and he was hoping to be the number 2, 3 starter for the Orioles. They pushed into contenders, but that hasn't worked out. He has a good fastball, a good changeup. He's got a nice swooping knuckle curve, but again, he also relies a lot on the slider. I think he throws it about 32% of the time. So again, we don't know. I know we do have Gomber, we do have Freeland, but it wouldn't hurt to give him a try. He's 31 years old. He'll be 32 this season. So I think he's a good value to give a shot at. His value is about $3.3 million. So those are four guys that aren't going to be extremely expensive that we definitely could take flyers on and also add some depth to this team.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and again, Tom pointed out that Kevin Pillar was a Rocky at one point in
Mhm.
2020 when Jet Bryce picked him up at the trade deadline. And then John Means, I really like that. Like I reacted to. I mean, he got a no hitter right before his Tommy John, right, for the
Mhm.
Orioles, and that's a guy that's kind of fallen off a little bit. Not a lot of people are talking about anymore. Of course, with the with the Orioles, where they've been building up their young farm system, and John Means has been kind of out of the conversation a little bit now since they have Grayson Rodriguez now in that rotation and a couple other guys. But yeah, John Means, that's a good name. And then yeah, there's some guys, and of course, for me, there's a guy that I like. Again, I told Tom before we started, but Luke Jackson, former Brave. Relief pitcher, and of course he got traded back to the Braves for the postseason. I really like him as a bullpen guy. I mean, I think the Rockies could definitely use some veteran presence in that bullpen, and since it's especially young coming in this upcoming season. Now the Rockies did get Jimmy Herget, however you pronounce his name,
Mhm.
off waivers. That could be the Rockies' lone bullpen move, and I'll be okay with it. But a little bit more experience would be okay, in my opinion, to go out and get a Luke Jackson type of guy. Blake Trinan is also available. He got his World Series ring now with the Dodgers. Maybe bring him in, be the Rockies closer. But I think a lot of us really like Victor Vodnik, Luis Peralta, Seth Halverson at the end of the season. Maybe be the closer there. there's a lot of options, man, and of course the Rockies they're not going to have a whole lot of money to spend anyway because of the payroll cut. But yeah, those are some really good names. The Rockies, I don't expect them to do much, and again, and I expect a lot of people to be upset about this by the time spring training rolls around, and people say the Rockies did absolutely nothing to improve their team. Listen, sometimes, especially in a rebuild, you can't really do too much. You got to let the young kids play, and let the young kids develop. And yes, you do need veteran presence. And I do agree that there should be times when we get veteran players to fill out that roster to help out the younger kids. But you can't get the Rockies have to get younger, right? And that's what we've been preaching about for the last year and a half. And so the Rockies are doing that. But yeah, I think to complement the roster and help out the young kids a little bit. Again, we talked about it last time with Chris on the podcast, Jacob Stallings. We thought that was a really good re-signing, right? 1 year deal, $2.5 million just to come back and be a guy to help out Drew Romo, fill in the shoes at the catching position. Hunter Goodman as well. This is a good opportunity for the Rockies to kind of get them pre-set up for that potential postseason window opening, hopefully in the next couple of years. Um, and I do want to mention this too because I know this is the topic that's going around baseball.
Mhm.
Nolan Arenado. So the
Oh boy.
Cardinals are likely going to be trading him, according to Katie Wu, who often goes along like on a lot of the shows at Foul Territory, which Tom and I we both love that show. Love that
Mhm.
show.
Mhm.
And so the question, and Lux is pointing out right here in the comments,
Mhm.
where do you think Arenado will be traded to? And of course, everybody knows, even Rockies fans know that he wants to go to LA. That's his, and not to mention, if you go to his recent, I think Instagram story or post, he
I
had
think it was.
and
I think it was. I think it was. I think it was Instagram. Yeah.
yeah, Instagram where he had the song something about LA, and it's like all of a sudden people started reacting. Oh, he's going to the Dodgers, and like Dodger fans were saying, "Hey, welcome to LA," that sort of thing. And Arenado himself was kind of joking, like, "Hey, folks, I'm just from California, and he's from California. I mean, he grew up a Dodger fan." And I think even Joshua Fuentes, who former Rocky, by the way, was even teasing some of the fans, like, "Hey, these fans don't know nothing." I thought that was really cool, but where he's going to go to. And of course, a lot of people are already saying Dodgers. That's a possibility. We already know the Dodgers want Arenado, like every single freaking free agent out there in the market, the Dodgers want. But, and that's a subject we'll talk about another time. Don't worry about it. The Yankees are up there on the board. Even the Red Sox have been rumored to be up there. And I told Tom, it would be kind of cool to see a Trevor Story and Arenado reunion in Boston. I'd much rather prefer that than having him come to LA and face the Rockies this much in the regular season. It would just hurt so much. But also, it could happen. But I know Blake Street Banner, they're going to write an article, and they already have an article about it. So you go check that out. Highly recommend, by the way. Love those guys over there. But, will Arenado come back to the Rockies? Is there a world where he comes back to the Rockies? And Tom and I, again, we were both discussing it before we started. As much as funny it would be, it's the bridges have been burned, and Jeff Bridich was a large part of that, and of course Arenado was on the other part of that, and the bridge can no longer be crossed. The only way that if you wanted to bring Arenado is to put him at first base, and the Rockies they already have a first baseman, and the Rockies have Ryan McMahon. That's really not a. I mean now. Since you're heading into the later part of McMahon's contract, a little bit more tradable, but still, you're going to have to pay some of that money if you do trade McMahon. So really, Arenado, and plus Arenado is now in the later part of his career where his numbers have not been great as they used to be. Defensively, he's really fallen off defensively, despite him. I believe he was a Gold Glove finalist this year, if I'm not mistaken. But he's kind of fallen off a little bit. And I think he's on the last part of his career and he wants to win, have the last opportunity to win somewhere else. And Colorado, unfortunately, will not be that place. But I like again, I feel like the Rockies are kind of in the turnaround to where they're going to be able to win some games in the near future. I just think he wants to play for a team that's a World Series contending team. Will it be the Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox? Who
Mhm.
knows? But one thing that I think Tom and I can agree on, he is 100% going to be moved. The Cardinals, they're going to get younger as they should have done over a year ago. I preached about it, but they didn't
Mhm.
do it. And plus, the Cardinals have front office issues, like a lot of teams are. So it's going to happen. So I I'm not gonna have any predictions necessarily. I think it's going to be one of those three teams, one of those four teams. The Blue Jays have been in the mix as well. There's a whole lot of teams that could be in the mix. Like it's hard to say, but All I can say
Well,
is that Arenado will be traded.
yeah, just real brief. I think, well, he does still have that no trade clause, so he controls where he goes. It's like you point out, people talk about, well, Jeff Bryant is gone. Well, the truth is, Dick Monfort had to okay the trade, and of
Yeah.
course, for him to come back, he has to okay that trade as well. And they're not going to take on again. We're already paying $5 million a year for him not to play for us. We're not going to take him back and then pay his full salary. So, it's
Yeah.
again, it's let's just be thankful that those fantastic years happened with us.
Yeah.
Let's be proud of that. Let's not be mad he's gone. Let's be thankful he did it with us.
Yeah. Well,
Personally, it would not surprise. There are a couple teams where I think he would waive the trade clause. One of which is the Dodgers. It wouldn't surprise me given the fact that Dodgers can afford to take on the remainder of the salary that we're not paying. That we're not paying. And again, he grew up a Dodger fan. He's from Southern California. I think he did go to Mater Day. I can't remember, but it's yeah, he's getting moved. And like you pointed out, I don't know why John Mozeliak did not decide to kind of not rebuild, but kind of retool the roster and get a little younger and kind of reset things just slightly, so you didn't have to worry about kind of doing almost a full do over. Um, but yeah, it's just yeah, I know he wants to try and go out in the World Series before that contract ends, and I wouldn't surprise me if he goes to LA. But no, as Lux points out in the comments here, when we just already mentioned it, yeah, we would. It would be kind of cool to see Trevor and Nolan back together in that segment.
mm,
However, either Nolan or Devers has to move positions.
mm. Yeah, that's gonna be like again. There's a lot of players in. I think we talked about it that Arenado has talked about how he's willing to play first base, but it's just I don't see that happening. I really don't.
I
I really
can't I
don't.
can't I can't picture him wearing a first base glove.
No, no.
I can't see
It's kind of like moving Ian Desmond from
it.
for, from from the outfield to first base. It's just like
Uh,
you can't do that, man. It's like Jordan Beck playing first base. He's an outfielder. Like, could he do it? Yeah, I mean he's athletic, but it's just like you can't. There's some things you can't. That's like Charlie Blackmon playing first base. You don't
oh
do that.
God,
Can you imagine?
I'm trying to picture that right now. Oh,
Charlie
oh,
Blackmon, first baseman Charlie
oh
Blackmon. I mean, he
wow.
could probably do it with the
Or
pitch,
he
but
could. No, I think he could.
he
He
could
could.
rip it off. He could rip it off
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh,
But
he could do it, but it's just
yeah.
seeing him with left on that right hand with a first base glove. It's just it
Uh,
would be kind of a fun experiment, though.
Yeah, it would. It would. But yeah, so that's going to be something to watch. And who knows? Maybe again, I think since we're going to head into the final segment talking about the winter meetings and the draft lottery, it's a good time to talk about like are the dominoes going to fall? And both Tom and I both agree. We feel like the dominoes are going to fall once Soto signs, and I think it's going to be happening next week. I think Soto's going to sign next week. That's my prediction, and I think he is 100% going to sign. I really don't see it moving past that or going to Christmas or going to January. There's no way that happens. It happened last year to a lot of people, including Blake Snell, who just recently signed with the Dodgers, and he was one of the first free agents, if not the first top 10 free agent off the board to sign. And it's not surprising because he signed very late this past year and went to San Francisco, had a horrible start. And I'm sure everyone remembers that. He was so bad. He went down the minor leagues, man. I mean, it was that bad. And then he came back up, had a really good finish. But it goes to show you that when you start early and you sign before spring training and a long time, because again, like you mentioned, you got to fill out the paperwork. You got to get the homes ready. You got to get the cars ready. Got the wife and kids. It's a whole process, man. And I just think it's stupid for some of these agents to wait until the day before school starts. It's like you don't do that, man. So I'm excited and like I told Tom, I hope that we don't get last year's winter meetings because last year's winter meetings was a complete snooze fest. Hardly any moves were made last year at the winter meetings, and this is supposed to be the most exciting time of the baseball offseason, and we got really much nothing. Otani signed a couple days after the winter meetings, and that was a horrible day. So it was just it was just a horrible December last year. So hopefully we're having a better one this year. Winter meetings. It's a fun time. Again, like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, like I said, winter meetings start next Monday. Draft lottery on Tuesday. And for the draft lottery, and I know some of us have been talking about it already in the comments and just today in our group chat, but uh, the Rockies and Marlins, they're the top two teams to get the number one pick. Now, it doesn't mean that they will for sure get the top picks because, again, you have that lottery where there's teams below them could have a chance to jump them. However, the Rockies have a pretty good chance of getting the number one pick. And in terms of getting, seeding and everything, I want to say, according to the graphic that we saw, the Rockies will have at least a 94% chance of getting a top 6 pick, which is still a very good pick. And of course, we're still waiting to see who the players are. But I think on everyone's mind, Rockies fans' minds especially, is Ethan Holiday, who, by the way, just today just got ranked #1 overall prospect on the draft board. High schooler coming out of high school. And while I preached about this when the draft was happening back in July. There's always risk, and I'm a little bit worried about high schoolers coming out of high school. But Ethan Holiday might be a guy that the Rockies might want to pull the trigger on just because of the family history, his brother Jackson, and his dad, of course, playing for the Rockies. Why not go get potentially maybe the next Matt Holiday? I don't want to put any pressure on Ethan here, but maybe will the Rockies get Ethan Holiday, Tom? What's going to happen? So the Rockies, you're going to have to find that out next Tuesday at 3:30 Mountain Time, 4:30 Central Time, and 5:30 Eastern Time. And that will be on MLB.com and MLB Network. So you're going to have to watch that. And as I said in the group chat to Tom and Adam, that I'll be heading to work when the thing starts. So that sucks. So I won't be able to react to it. I wish I could, but I think we will be able to post for that. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be happening next Tuesday at 3:30 Mountain Time for the draft lottery. So find out where the Rockies land. And hopefully it's a quick thing. I don't want it to last an hour. And I want to say last year, the draft lottery only lasted for like 30 minutes. It was not that long. It really they just announced the teams for the top 10 picks, really top 15. Or if not the top 18, I think, actually, because their other ones are postseason teams. They're already placed in their spots, right? And I think right now we're just finding out where, I think tonight, actually, somebody released the compensation picks, because when it comes to free agents and everything, that's going to come through as well. So I'm looking forward to the draft lottery, a little bit nervous. And I told my brother today it would be the most Rockies thing ever if they do not get the #1 pick, or if they don't land a top 3 pick. It would hurt. But again, you're still getting a top 6 prospect. And in the history of the last few years of the drafts, the top 5, top 6, heck, even the top 10, players are solid. And last year, I thought this past year when the Rockies got Charlie Condon, the top 10 players were excellent. JJ Weatherholt went at 7, and he was rumored to go 1-1 to Cleveland, right? So the Rockies are going to get a good player regardless, but for a lot of us, we kind of want that #1 prospect, because in the Rockies' history, they've never had a #1 prospect 1-1. And so if that happens, it'll be the first time in Rockies' history, and maybe it'll kind of finish off what has been a very good a few drafts for the Rockies over the last several years. First off, in 2020 with Zach Veen, 2021 Benny Montgomery, 2022 Gabriel Hughes, 2023 Chase Dollander, and then this past year with Charlie Condon. So top it off, because again, this will be the last year the Rockies will be able to pick in the top 10. So why don't you top it off with another good prospect, maybe Ethan Holiday, and help that farm system even better. And I'll preach it on it again. I think the Rockies are going to be a top 5 farm system by the end of next year. I really believe that. I think it's going to be one of the best in baseball. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. So Tom, do you have any thoughts, any predictions on what's going to happen for the winter meetings as they start up next week?
Well, just to clarify on the rankings I was talking about, it did came out today. I found the article. It was Jonathan Mayo, MLB Pipeline. He put the whole ranking list together. It came out at 7 o'clock today, so be sure to check it out on MLB.com. Ethan Holiday is the number one guy on there, and yes, Lux, I know we did hit you with an Ian Desmond. we had to kind of bring reminiscences. We're talking about guys changing positions. It's yes, but what was I saying? But I think my bold prediction for this on the draft lottery, it's either going to be us or the Marlins that gets the #1 pick. Ethan, I do hope if we don't, but to be honest, there's a couple of guys after him in the top 5. I do like the outfielder from Texas A&M, Jace Leviolette. I think that's how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. But I also go down further. I do also like Travis Bazzana's former teammate, Iva Arquette, who's a second baseman. He's also a pretty talented player. There's a lot, and also there's another shortstop from Oklahoma, out of high school in Oklahoma, Eli Willits. He's also a pretty good player, switch hitter, by the way. So even if we manage to not get Ethan Holiday, who, my God, he's big for a 17-year-old, 6'4", 200 pounds. Mike, that's what he's listed at. Mike, I didn't realize he was. Yeah. I knew he was tall. I didn't realize he was that big. But anyway, so. I do believe it's only going to be about 35, 40 minutes. There's an intro. They only do the non-playoff team. So we have a great chance. I think we'll get it. And again, like I said, everyone's kicking on the White Sox. They have the worst record in Major League Baseball history. They're not even getting the #1 pick.
Yeah.
So hot. So Jerry Reinsdorf, go kick rocks on that one. Um, anyway, but to go back to to talk about the free agents, I do believe. So my prediction, as I said in our pre-show meeting, I do believe Soto is going to sign by Monday. Shohei Ohtani last year, he did not hold the market, but Scott Boras, he has a lot. He has quite a few clients up there. You got Bregman, you got Alonso, Soto. Last year, he was playing more of a sit back and let the teams come to him like, "Hey, here's the offer. Come take it. You got to come take it. Otherwise, I'm going to go to this team." I think he's being more aggressive with this one because
Yeah.
I think Soto actually gave him the marching orders. Hey, I'm not going to wait. You got to get me signed soon. So I think, and I do believe teams are taking notice and they're being more aggressive because the rumors are Soto's met with the Mets and he met with the Dodgers and he met with the Red Sox, he met with the Yankees. So I think at least it wouldn't surprise me looking at this list of top tier guys. It wouldn't surprise of like the top 25 free. I'll make this top 25 free agents. I would say at least 3 or 4 of them are going to sign at the winter meetings because again, all the top agents from Scott Boras to Joe Wolf to Nez Bolello, they're all going to be there. The teams are all going to be gathering, having meetings with them, courting them because representatives get there as early as Thursday, maybe, and all are usually there by Friday or Saturday morning.
So they're already there. Some of them.
Basically, yes, they're already started coming there. I think
Yeah.
I think I saw Chris Getz. Somebody posted a picture of him at the getting on the tarmac to head on Jerry's private jet to go to Dallas. So yeah, but that's the thing. And so deals do start as early as back at the end of the season, and they all start to culminate now as the off season is in full swing. So that's my thing. I think there's going to be a lot of talks. And for guys who don't sign, there's going to be a domino effect because once Soto signs, just like once Ohtani signed, a lot of dominoes start to fall. And last thing I'll say is those big four Boris clients who waited. I think you waited. That's their fault. So again, and to say, and again, Blake Snell going to the Dodgers. Let's keep in mind he didn't pitch a lot of innings last year, guys. It's not like he eats up a lot of innings for us. So if we can get him out by the 4th inning and attack the Dodger bullpen, I think we stand a pretty decent chance. Not to say we're gonna kick the Dodgers' butts this year, but it's again. I think it's gonna be a much busier winter meetings than last year. So you're gonna see quite a bit of signing. I'm not saying it's gonna be a ton, but you're gonna see. I would say at least 3 or 4 solid signings at the winter meetings.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Again, I'm working. I won't be able to see a whole lot of it, but I'm looking forward to seeing just the action and just being able to see baseball moves because again, it's the most exciting part of the baseball off season. And Tom and I, we were talking about this before the show. There should absolutely be a signing period, and that will be kind of like what the NFL does with the free agent period. You have to sign a free agent. You have to do this by a certain period of time. And it just makes things more exciting because there's nothing better when you go on Twitter or Instagram and seeing all this news about, this player is going to your favorite team or this guy's going to that team. It's like, ooh, that's a really fun move. This is the best part of baseball, man. And last year, like I said, it was just not fun when nobody was going anywhere for the winter meetings. No moves were being made except maybe minor moves. I think Yasmani Grandal was signed by the Pirates during the winter meetings. That was arguably one of the only signings that happened over that week. And it was just like, are we serious here? So I'm looking forward to actual moves being made. And again, I like your prediction that, Soto's going to be signed by next Monday. I really like that. We're just going to have to wait. And I think right now we're just getting the popcorn ready for Juan Soto. So get your popcorn. It's going to be a show. But I said that last year, and nothing happened for Ohtani. And here we heard the rumors about Ohtani going on an airplane to Toronto. So if we hear any rumors about Soto going on an airplane, don't believe that. Don't believe that. Or the arson judge tweet by John Heyman. I almost said something, but sorry, John Heyman. But, I don't want that to happen again. So we shall see. It's going to be a fun week next week. And I'm just looking forward to seeing some of the interviews because I love how MLB Network does interviews of the front office for each team, like the GM or the president of baseball operations for that team and the manager. For instance, last year the Rockies, they brought Bill Schmidt and Bud Black to the winter meetings, and I think that's important. I love that, and I just want to hear their thoughts on the Rockies. And so I'm looking forward to that, and so they're going to be doing interviews for that. And I think there's usually videos on Twitter or the Rockies website that you can look up whenever they do the interviews for that. So I'm looking forward to just seeing what Bud Black and Bill Schmidt think heading into next year on the rebuild and that sort of thing. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I was just thinking about this day, Tom. It's crazy to think that we only have a couple more of these until 2025. We only have a few more shows until we're heading into 2025, and it's amazing. I feel like it's gone by so fast. And again, we've already mentioned this multiple times on our Instagram page, but we are rebranding Rockies now, so the logo will be different. I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm not gonna spoil anything I thought about doing it, but I'm like, nope, Steven, do not spoil it. It's going to be a new look. It's going to be more of a sleeker look. It's going to be awesome. And I think you guys are going to really like it. We're excited here at Rockies Now. Again, Adam came aboard a couple months ago. We're excited for Rockies Now, and we're looking forward to it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And we hope you guys will be along for the ride. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube or just followed us on Instagram, what are you doing? Go follow us over there on Instagram. We really appreciate it. Join the Rockies Now family. It's a fun family. We're building a community over there of fun Rockies fans and just building a positive environment. We want to build a positive environment on Instagram, Twitter, X, YouTube. We're even on Blue Sky now as well. So go follow us on Blue Sky as well, trying to build a following over there. And we really appreciate it. We love all of you guys. We do this for you guys. But yeah, Tom, we only have a few more of these until 2025. So we're looking forward to it. We have a few more fun shows coming up. We might have another guest coming aboard here soon. So stay tuned for that. Again, we have a lot of fun stuff coming up. But on behalf of Tom, myself, and Adam, we really appreciate you for listening to this edition of the Rockies Now podcast. We hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Have a great week. We'll talk to you all later next week when we do a show when the winter meetings hopefully we'll have some results next time. From Tom and myself, thank you so much for watching this edition of the Rockies Now podcast. And as always, go Rockies.